Hi, welcome everybody. Welcome today. I have a quick question for all of you. What attracts people to the hobby of gardening? For many people see it as a great and fun way of getting outdoors. To others, it's a meticulous hobby where you strive to make natural perfection using your own hands. But for many of us, growing your own plants, particularly your own food, is one of the main pathways to bring fresh food into your household. Gardening has grown vastly in popularity since the COVID-19 pandemic. As of 2023, nearly 55% of Americans grow their own garden crops, myself being one of them. Over the past summer, I was at my local library looking for gardening books, and I found one on something called hydroponics, which is, in a simple sense, growing plants in water instead of soil. Since then, I read through the book, fell down the rabbit hole a bit, read a couple more books, and through it all I came to one key rationalization, that growing crops in this way is not only a low cost and easy way to get into gardening, but can also provide vital food security for many Americans who would not have the ability to garden otherwise. So, for today's speech, we'll go into why we need better options for gardening in America, some of the fun and easy ways you can get into hydroponic growing, and the benefits hydroponic growing can bring to you and to your household. And the best place to start is with why hydroponics may be very vital for gardening in the household. According to the USDA, 11.1% of Americans suffer from something called food insecurity. Food insecurity is based around the idea that you do not have proper variety, nutrition, or availability of food within the diet. This comes in the form of skipped meals, reduced nutrition, reduced food budgets, and it mainly just means the lack of fresh foods, such as meats, fruits, and in particular vegetables, coming into the household. While this issue does have systemic ties to things like poverty and housing instability, one of the more recent causes in its increase has come from rising food prices over the past couple of years. Now, you might think, America's an agricultural powerhouse. This has been true, but over the past decades, the American farm system has come to some key failings. Over-reliance on fertilizer and pesticides has led to reduced soil quality, the rise in pesticide-resistant insects and diseases, and an overall reduced crop yield, leading to increased food prices. This leads to many Americans not being able to afford proper fresh fruits and vegetables for their home. The obvious solution to this would be to garden, but a large portion of the population that does suffer from food insecurity is urban. Urban spaces do not have the open air space to garden, and those that do often are in places that do not have the proper climate to support agriculture. Not to mention the fact that most people living urban lifestyles do not have the amount of time to get into gardening as a hobby. It's through these reasons that hydroponic growing shines something pretty special. You see, when you're growing hydroponically, I said it was growing food out of water instead of soil, but it's a bit more complicated than that. What you start off with is something called a medium. This can be a gravel, a stone, a sand. You then place a plant that has already been rooted in this medium, and then place this medium suspended over water. This water is mixed in with a liquid fertilizer, and it will grow just as well as if it did in soil. It's efficient, low cost, and you can do it inside the comfort of your own home. You don't need an open air garden, you don't need a greenhouse, you just need a spot in your house that has either a UV light or an open spot for sunlight. The easiest forms of hydroponic gardening come in countertop models that you can buy that are pre-made. They have their own grow light. You just put your plants in, put your water in, and it's ready to go. These do, however, come as a relatively expensive option, $70, $90, $120, but the market is so diverse that you can usually find one that has a budget that will fit any lifestyle. You can even buy larger ones that you mount to your floor or to your wall, but They take a lot more effort and a lot more water, but come at the benefit of giving you a lot more crops. Now, the best and most budget-efficient methods of hydroponic gardening come in the ones you make yourself. In her book, Countertop Gardens, botanical author Shelley Levis points out several models of hydroponic building that you can do with relative ease. You can use old wine bottles, 5-gallon buckets, or even something as simple as a 2-liter water bottle to make something called a hydroponic vessel. This is one I made myself. It took me an hour. This was some hydroponic material I brought from my house. It's literally that easy. And what you get from it all is a highly efficient food source that you can grow in your own home. Another book that I found on the subject called Hydroponics in the Home by Laura Perez Escudera of the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation in Agriculture posed an experiment in which a 1 by 1 meter area was posed to have one section of it be a traditional gardening bed and the other section of it be a hydroponic bed. In the traditional gardening bed, they planted lettuces, and after about 8 weeks, we found they grew 8, 9, it's not bad. However, in the hydroponic bed, they found that they could grow up to 25 lettuces in the same amount of space as the traditional gardening bed. And this comes at the benefit of not needing soil, only needing water, and it'll grow as if it was just in soil. Now, I have gotten some kickback on this. They tell me, Dalton, you just said the American agricultural system is failing because of over-reliance on fertilizers. Now you're showing me a system that only has fertilizers maintaining it. This is true. However, the amount of fertilizer you're using overall is much less than if you were soil gardening because you aren't losing anything to runoff or drainage. It's all contained within the hydroponic system. The same thing goes for water. It was actually found that hydroponic growing uses about 10 times less water than soil garden growing. What you end up with then is a highly efficient, fresh, organic, and pesticide-free form of fresh food that you can bring into your home. And I think it's pretty great. I fell down the rabbit hole with it, and I think that if you give it a chance, you will too. It is a great gateway for other hobbies. You'll start off with hydroponics. Next thing you know, you'll be composting. You'll be seed saving. You'll even, maybe, start canning, saving your own food for future use. You'll become quite the crafty little gardener. Hopefully, I'd like to think that you would become so invested, you might tell your neighbor about it. And then they'll tell the whole floor about it. And the next thing you know, you might have a whole building of people growing food hydroponically. And once you have enough of the majority of people doing the same thing, it becomes the way of the future. It's food for thought. Thank you all for coming.